We're back to the Total Celebrity Show on the Total Radio Network. Again, you can go to TotalTutor.net for more information. Twitter, Total Tutor, Neil S. Haley. Facebook, LinkedIn, Neil Haley. Instagram, Neil Haley. And also Pinterest, Neil Haley. And I'm so excited to welcome the program. And, I mean, if you talk about a pitcher with quite a resume. Again, he was a two-time All-Star, World Series champion 1981, 1980 NL Comeback Player of the Year. He pitched a no-hitter in June 27th, 1980, so that'll be a record for me. I've never had anyone on that's pitched a no-hitter, so I want to welcome the program All-Star, former L.A. Dodger, and much, much more, Jerry Royce. Jerry, how are you doing?
Everything's good. It's another good morning.
Oh, it's fantastic. And I tell you, just the memories of you pitching for the Dodgers the year that you guys shocked the world in 81 in so many aspects, beating the Yankees. I'm sure that just absolutely is one of probably your greatest moments, next to probably a no-hitter, right?
Yeah, actually, if I had to rank them 1 through, 3, I would say winning the World Series is number 1. Number 2 was the first day in the big leagues because that occurred in St. Louis in 1969. I grew up there. And then number 3 would have to be the no-hitter. But it's a tough one to rank, but that's the way it falls for me.
And then probably 220 wins goes ranked next after that, right? Your accomplishments. But there's a lot of definite accomplishments in your career, and you went and played for many different teams. So that's probably one of the big things about why write the book, because again, you traveled everywhere, it seemed like, and played for some amazing people, for sure.
Well, I didn't write the book because I played so many different places and met a lot of different people. That was a byproduct. The reason I wrote the book was 15, 20 years ago when my parents passed away, they didn't leave a written record or even a video record of their lives, so they took that with them. Plus, there were hundreds of photographs of different people in different places that none of us recognized, my 2 brothers and myself. And so as a result, there was a lesson learned. And I said, I'm not going to leave my legacy like that. So I put many of my baseball photos on Flickr and then decided to write the stories into a book. But it was really meant for the kids and the grandkids. But I was able to piece things together in such a way that a book was viable. So that's where we are today.
So that's interesting. That's an interesting story to know that you didn't want your legacy to disappear, that, you know, your grandkids and your great-grandkids wouldn't know your great storied career, and also your fans, and to bring back fans of that time, especially when you I think about you with the Dodgers. I mean, that's my memory of you, and truly I was a huge Dodger fan because my uncle is a Los Angeles Dodgers fan, and he was a Brooklyn Dodgers fan before, and he had me adopt that team. And I remember the World Series like it was yesterday in so many ways. And if I wanted to go and tell my grandkids someday about Jerry Royce, now I can with this book. So what a great idea for sure.
Well, it came out well. In fact, I was able to, in process of writing it, come up with some of the things that I personally had forgotten. And I know other teammates, once they have a chance to read the book, will say, I forgot that happened. So there are little details sprinkled here and there that kind of put the story into a totally different context some, 30 years after the event happened. So it's nice to have it on the shelf if and when you want to pull it down and take a look and say, oh, yeah, I remember that.
Absolutely. And so I guess when you were a kid, did you always think you'd be a baseball player, Jerry?
I always wanted to be one. I believed that I would be one, but I knew the odds. In fact, I mentioned this in the book. The book, by the way, is called Bringing the Right-Hander. I mentioned that early on when I told my older brother that I wanted to play, he said the odds are maybe 1 in a million. And I said, yeah, but there's got to be one, and why can't that one be me? And as it turned out, that first day that I had in the big leagues, I was 20 years old, sitting on the Dodgers bench watching Nelson Briles shut out the Montreal Expos. And I happened to look at the visitors' dugout above a section or two, and I found the seats that I sat in just a little more than 2 years prior to that. And I said, my God, is this ever a moment? When you pay for the seats and watch the team and cheer for it the whole time growing up, and then you're a part of it, it's special. And I was that one person in a million at that particular time.
And when you were in the majors, did you think you'd have such a long career? Did you feel that this is definitely something for you, and you knew that you were going to continue to play, but you knew how long pitchers last in the majors, a lot of them a short period of time. So were you concerned about that, or you just thought you're just going to keep playing because you love the game?
You know, Neil, be honest with you, at 20 years old, I was just glad to be there. And I was like a sponge and soaked up everything. And then played the next year and then the next year after that. Now, there's no long-range planning as far as being a baseball player. Even when the era of long-term contracts came about and you had multiple years guaranteed in your contract, it didn't mean you were going to play those years. It just meant that you were going to be paid based on what was written in the contract. No, you can't. You have to live pretty much day by day and prepare yourself for a long season. That's what I did, and I did it for a long period of time. And only after you've done it, sometimes I find myself stepping back and asking myself, and I'd been through this, the question, how did this happen? How was I able to do this when most people who have ever played in big leagues, and there's been over 17,000, how was I able to play as long as I did? Well, the book answers that question.
And that's why we got to buy the book, but we're just kind of getting people interested, especially because, again, you're talking about so many interesting managers you played for, so many interesting players. Think of it. You played for, again, the St. Louis Cardinals, the Houston Astros, the Pittsburgh Pirates. When I was saying, I didn't remember that, I was looking back at your bio at the end when I think when you played for the Pirates, they were, it might have been a short period of time, but think about the years of 74 to 78. This is when the Pirates really were starting to surge back again. You're a part of that, those great teams, and you played for the Dodgers and won a World Series, and then you continue to travel to different places and run into some fantastic players and coaches, right, and managers, right, in your career.
I played for 15 different managers. I can't even count the number of coaches because, you know, the people coming out of the cast. So, yeah, you know, a lot of people talk about the fact that it's special when a player spends his entire career with one team.
Right, yeah.
And like Tony Gwynn or Stan Musial and, well, Ernie Banks, you know, that's special. And there's no question about that. But I consider myself just as fortunate for playing as long as I did on a number of teams. And that's because I had a chance to live in different parts of the country, places I would have never guessed would have been as good as they were, and meet a number of different people who, well, I'm still in contact with today, all as a result of the quirk of being traded or a contract sold or whatever during the course of my 22-year career. Yeah, I look back at it and say, what a benefit I had.
We're talking all-star Jerry Royce, author of Bring in the Right-Hander, and really enjoying this conversation for sure. And, you know, there's so many questions, and, again, people definitely have to pick up the book. But think about the era of baseball, when you first came in till the end, and how it changed with free agency, with contracts changing, and the money really dramatically being different till by the time you retired. You saw a lot of different types of ball players, didn't you?
Well, yeah, there were different kinds of people. The ball players, well, pretty much the same because the positions pretty much defined how they had to play the game. As far as changes, I came on when the Players Association was new, and there were concerns about the pension and medical benefits. You know, when I first signed, a scout told me, he said, we got the best benefits package you could ever imagine. In addition to medical, we've got a pension, and this pension is the best in sports. Neil, you know what that pension was back then? It was $50 a month for the rest of your life when you reached age 65.
Oh,
now that, yeah, $50 a month doesn't get you much these days, but that's what they had to say when it was available back in the mid-'60s. So in some 50-plus years, it's grown to where people can now afford to live and can do things as far as raising their family that otherwise they couldn't have done. No, baseball has made a number of changes, mainly because of the Players Association, and free agency allowed the players to earn more money than they would ever dream of, and it's evolved into what baseball is today. And I've got to give credit to where it's due, and that's the people who now run the game, in that every organization is viable. Every organization is making some money, and the players are sharing in it. It's available now in ways that nobody would have ever dreamed of. Who would have ever thought you can turn on a device like a smartphone and watch a ball game from pretty much anywhere in this country? So everything's evolved, and boy, I guess that's the subject of another show. What changes have happened in baseball, and when did they first come along? But the game right now, it's better than it's ever been. If you want to know what the golden age of baseball is, it's today.
And why do you feel that? Tell me why.
Because everything's better today than it's ever been before. There's great ballparks. If you go to some of the ballparks and look at them and just stand down on the field and you take a look around, it's a palace. Nobody could have ever imagined. And these are all of the ballparks around baseball today. And for those that are well over 100 years old, like Fenway Park and Wrigley Field, you can walk down there in that field and you could just feel the history. You can smell the history. And you know that anywhere you would walk on that field, something historical happened, as well as the number of former players that have walked on those fields. So you take a look at baseball as a whole, and you just have to marvel at it because, like I said, it's the best it's ever been.
You've played 22 years in the major leagues. Would you say? I always think of you as an LA Dodger, and you played for a variety of different teams. What do you think in a lot of ways? You have great memories of all the teams, but would you say the Dodgers are the ones that have your greatest memories because you were there the longest? You think?
Yeah, I would say most people think of me in that way, mainly because of the World Series. But there are pockets of fans throughout the country that still remember me as a particular ball player associated with a particular team. In Pittsburgh, they remember I was a Pirate. In St. Louis, there's still enough fans there that said, yeah, you played for the Cardinals and some other teams. But mostly, particularly in the western part of the country, it's Dodgers. But bouncing around here and there, everybody does have their own memory because they happen to be a fan of that particular club. So it's nice to have those different identities, and really there's not much I could do about it anyway. And it's like I said earlier, the fact that I played in all these different places and met all these different people, that's an experience, well, you just can't buy.
It's definitely an experience you just can't buy, and it's an amazing journey. And think of the storied teams. Again, the Cardinals, the Pirates. You look at the Cincinnati Reds in their history, the Chicago White Sox in its history, the Milwaukee Brewers in its history, the California Angels. All of the teams are very great franchises that you were a part of, and I think that's important for all of them to remember those times and see that you played for some great teams, and meaning franchises for sure.
Well, you're right about that. I didn't play all that well for some of those teams. I stunk up the place in Cincinnati, and with the Angels, they more or less said, well, we're going to go in an entirely different direction. And, well, those things happen. Not every place that you perform do you get the results that you hope for, but it's part of the experience. And when things go bad, of course, you realize how tough that is, but it really gives you a counter as to how good can be. So I remember the good times. I remember how tough it can be, and it gives me an idea of what I went through during the years I played.
Exactly. And again, we're talking to Jerry Royce, author of Bring in the Right Hander. We're definitely going to have play this on the Author's Corner show and also the Total Celebrity show. And it's very interesting, Jerry, I guess, how you kind of have are marketing yourself now in a way that, like you said, you wanted the memories, and now you're seeing how baseball is with the digital world and meeting new people and being in touch with different people. I think that's also making you excited that you're launching the book, because now you're going to get to really connect with lots of people all over the world that's been have been fans of yours, for sure.
Well, connecting is a whole lot easier today because of the means by which we can do it. Of course, there's the written word, and actually for me, when I read a book, I prefer to have the book in hand and have my own little bookmark, and sometimes I'll even get in there with a pencil and check it up. Can't sell it after you do that, but it's your own personal copy, and you can do with it as you please. Then there are digital copies, which you can play on the devices and take with you everywhere. And one thing you have to worry, or you don't have to worry about, is moving it. So there's an advantage in that way. And then, of course, we talk about it. We provide voice to back it up, and you can preserve those. So there's so many different ways to share the experiences. They're instantaneous, and if someone, even after hearing this interview, says, "I like this book, I like the idea, the concept," then they get a pretty good idea. Maybe what we ought to do is talk about how I came up with the title.
Yeah, how did you come up with the title?
There you go. Thanks for asking. Bringing a right-hander was what I used to hear. It was the last thing I heard a manager tell the home plate umpire when he came to take me out during the course of an inning. And I came across that. How many times do you think I heard that when I pitched in over 600 games? And I realized that in 3 out of 4, somebody had to come in behind me. So when the manager came to take me out, that's what he told the umpire. And I said, "That's the perfect title." Because there was always, it seems, somebody coming in me, a lot of times having to clean up my mess.
And it's very interesting, Jerry, how, again, a left-hander is a great, it's great to have a left-hander, but you're right, the whole thought process about bringing in the right-hander is, the day's done. Either it's a great day where you've pitched 8 innings and did very well, or it's a day where you just stunk up the joint, and there goes the right-hander. So that's what you're used to at the end, when it's either ending with a good chance of winning, or you're going to end up losing the game, or in a relief role. So all these different areas for sure in your career.
Yeah, well, there was never a bad day in baseball. It's just that some days were better than others.
Exactly, Jerry. So where can we purchase your book and learn more about you?
Well, there are the normal places to go to learn about me. Wikipedia is a pretty good place to start. Some of the baseball websites, retrosheet.org, does a wonderful job of putting together all of the ball games that I ever pitched. And actually, it has the box scores of just about every game. There's Baseball Almanac. As far as all of the things about me. So there's multiple sources to learn all of those things. But the important thing, and I hope a lot of people consider this important, is where do I get a copy of the book? Right now, I would say the quickest, the easiest way is to go on Amazon.com, punch in my name under the books heading, and take a look at it. They probably got the best prices there on Amazon. Or if you want to pick up a copy and have it today, your local Barnes & Noble or even independent bookstore may have a copy. So a lot of different options to purchase a book. Or if you just say, I'd like to download one because I don't want to leave the house today, you can do that on Amazon. And you have it just by the time we finish this phone conversation.
Well, if you're a baseball fan, you need to pick up this book because ultimately it tells a story of your career, but also a story of the players that played around you, Jerry, and the amazing history of those 22 years in Major League Baseball. You lived the dream, and now you're sharing the dream, and that's fantastic, Jerry, so I appreciate you calling.
Well, Neil, always a pleasure visiting, and I tell the fans that are interested in the book, take a look at it. There's some fun things in there. There's a lot of laughs, but it's also done against the backdrop of the late 60s and takes the reader all the way to the early 90s. So it gives you a pretty good idea of what's going on in baseball and what life was like for me during those 22-plus years.
Well, absolutely, Jerry. Thanks again for calling, and best of luck with the book.
All right, Neil, thanks for having me on the program.
All right, take care, Jerry. All right, see you later. Bye-bye. You're listening to Total Celebrity Show on the Total Radio Network, and we'll be back in just a moment.